This is the dumbbell bench press. All right, now that that's all. Boom. Okay, here are the 3 things you need to focus on tomorrow, if you're doing bench presses tomorrow, that will immediately make your dumbbell bench press more effective. Now remember, this is for average, everyday people who are trying to build a little bit of muscle, trying to remain physically independent for as long as possible, and trying to be a little harder to kill the things like diseases and falls. This is not designed as a lecture for power lifters or Olympic weightlifters. Why they do double bench press anyway, I don't know. So let's move on amicably. Number one thing you need to do if you want to instantly improve the effectiveness of your dumbbell bench press is to mind your elbows. Why does this camera seem like it's tilting? Let me see if I can fix that. That's better. There we go. Okay, so that's having a balanced camera. The number one thing you can do is to mind your shoulders. I'm not going to start getting into a whole powerlifter versus functional exercise guru. Your shoulder blades should never move. Your shoulder blades should move. Mind your shoulders. What you'll see when people bench press, whether it's a bar or dumbbell, their shoulders will start creeping up towards their neck. Or, from a side view, you'll see that their shoulders get in front of their chest like that. Why is that a problem? Remember rule number 1, we talked about last time with the whole Lyle McDonald thing. The number one thing in exercise you do is work the muscle you want it to work. Well, I don't know, but I think the bench press is supposed to be a chest exercise, not a trap exercise. I think the bench press is supposed to be a chest exercise, not an anterior deltoid and rotator cuff festival. If you, while bench pressing, don't mind your shoulders, and your shoulders start to creep up into this position, especially as you get tired, you're trying to ego leverage more weight or more reps out, or if as you press, you lose control and your arm starts going this way, this way, this way, and then all of a sudden your shoulder, instead of being behind your chest, gets in front of your chest, you got a problem. Because now all of a sudden you've made the neck and the front of the shoulders and the rotator cuff the primary muscles that are working the exercise. And that is not what bench press is designed to do. Right? For the second one, what you want to think about is imagine if your thumb was a ticket booth and your chest was first in line and your shoulders were second in line. Everything in society works if the person first in line gets to the ticket booth first. Why? My chest is closer to my thumb. What happens is when the degenerates and dirtbags of this world decide that the rules don't apply to them and might makes right, they leapfrog over the person in line in front of them, so now they're closer to the ticket booth. That's where the breakdown of society begins. So make sure, if you want to make the chest the primary focus of the exercise, mind your shoulders. Never allow your shoulder to get in front of line of your chest. Your chest should always be in front of your shoulders. And if you feel like you've got to squeeze out an extra rep, or you feel like you're putting in 110% like some stupid 1980s deodorant commercial, and you do this, you're not being cool, you're being stupid. You're being ineffective, and you're not giving your body the best shot to get the most out of the exercise. So keep your shoulder behind your chest. Does this mean that your scapula has to be locked into your ass bone? No. You'll find as the weights get heavier and heavier, your shoulders can't move very much anyway, whether you like it or not, functional exercise guy, right? But your shoulders should always stay behind your chest. Let me do that one more time. So as I press, my chest is always in front of my shoulders. In front, behind. See, as I press out, regardless of if my shoulder blade moves or not, my chest is always in front of my shoulders. Likewise, as I'm coming back, my chest should always be above my shoulders. So if my shoulders start creeping above my chest, it's no longer a chest exercise. All right? So keep your shoulders disciplined. This is why the weightlifting guys were like, oh, I fix my scapula and I don't move. All right? You don't have to go to that extreme if you're an average, everyday person just trying to put on a little muscle. When the weights start getting really heavy and the goals for building muscle get very aggressive, that happens by default because there's no way you can move a heavy weight and have your scapulas just moving all over the place and keep your shoulders disciplined. So that's number 1. If you go in a gym tomorrow and I start seeing a lot of people get better at this and get better than doing this and not trying to squeeze that last rep up by letting the shoulders get in front of the chest, you just made light years of progress. and making your dumbbell bench press better. So that's number one, mind your shoulders. Number two is mind yourself. Right? Perfect example of this one is elbow position. You heard people scream and yell about all the different positions you should be when you're bench pressing. No one should ever bench press like this. This is the worst possible position you could possibly be in. Or everyone should be a shirted powerlifter bench press and bench press like this. Like they've got some 6 levels of what do they use on their chest? I can't remember. Corduroy on their chest. No. Right? I use this analogy very simply. If you see that makes no sense. I use this analogy very often. There's no such thing as a shoe store called size 10 because foot size is an immutable physical characteristic, right? That shoe store wouldn't last very long. Likewise, the idea that there's one elbow position that everyone should be in to maximize chest development over shoulders and neck is insane. So what I always say is, some people say it's like the funky chicken, you know that dance that people do? Well, it's like the funky human body. If you've got a thick torso like I do, and short little T-Rex arms, the idea that my elbow position to maximize my chest development is going to be the same as, say, someone who has a long, flat, wide chest and long arms, so long they don't have to bend over to pick up their socks, right? They can change the TV without, that's an old school thing. You guys know what the hell remotes are. No, maybe you actually do. They can change the channel without getting up off the couch. This video is completely going sideways quickly. You got to find the elbow position that works best for you. Remember this real quick, because it's going to start going on too long. External positions should always serve internal responses, meaning that if I feel my chest most here versus there, then that's where I should bench press from. So you've got to make sure that physically your body is in a position. Some people that's going to mean a little bit more of an elbow tuck. For some people that's going to mean a little less of an elbow tuck. The key thing is to always make your external positions feed the best internal response. Chest muscles work from the outside in, meaning most of the mass of your chest is in here. So if you're doing an exercise and you're feeling mainly in the front of the shoulders or the neck, maybe what you want to do is bring the elbows in a little bit more to activate your chest more. Likewise, if you're feeling the exercise too much in the elbow, or you're not feeling the chest enough, or you're feeling too much in the shoulder, then you can also kind of bring the elbow out a little till you find your sweet spot. Right? Some people say funky chicken. I say fart noises with the armpit. Most people aren't as scatologically orientated as I am. Take whatever analogy you want and run with it. So number one is mind your shoulder positions. Don't shrug up and turn to a trap exercise. Don't push your shoulders all the way forward, getting your shoulders in front of your chest and making it an anterior delt exercise. And screwing up your shoulder joint in your neck in the process. Number two is understand everybody's an individual. You've got to find the right elbow position. Same thing with a back arch. Some people will advise you put these big crazy ass powerlifter back arches in it. I see very mixed results with that. Some people use a slightly bigger arch and it helps them feel their chest more. Some people use a slightly less of an arch and it helps them feel their chest more. What I find is it always back to point number one is that if you have a little bit of arch in your chest, it's kind of hard to get that arm out in front of you. In fact, the only way to get the arm too far in front of you is by losing that little bit of arch, and then the whole system collapses. Likewise with the position here, if you keep a little bit of arch in your back or whatever is relative to your body type, it's very hard to get your shoulders to come up. But the second you start slouching in the spine, your shoulders drop up. So really, the idea of a back arch when you're bench pressing all seems to serve the first point, which is to mind your shoulders. And the third point, since this video is under 10 minutes, is shut the hell up. Right? You are not Oprah Winfrey. You are bench pressing, which means when you're bench pressing, the only noises that should come out of you should sound like Stallone and Rambo. All right? I don't need a conversation with someone when they're bench pressing. If I'm spotting you, I don't need you to tell me, oh, it's not going up, no, and don't laugh, because that's just mocking me as a trainer. Right? When you're bench pressing, it's not going up, All right? Look, between conversation and flopping, you'll see people, and this is the other thing, when they bench press, you'll see a lot of young guys when they come in, because now it's the summer, and they come in these rows of like 4 and 5 packs of like jackals, right? Or if they're hawks, they're kennels, Diana Sullivan, right? You'll see them lie down the bench, and when the weight gets heavy, they'll either go, and all the jerk-offs around them will start going, or they'll start kicking their legs like this, right? Thinking somehow this is going to help them bench press more. Look, the second your legs start moving, you start losing stability. If you don't think that's going to affect your ability to generate power, watch the NFL. Watch the baddest, meanest, most powerful athletes in the world play on snow and rain. You'll see they're half as powerful as they normally are. You need a solid base. When you're doing a good bench press, your body should get tighter, your legs should kick less, you should talk less. Right? The bench press is a wonderful stress release mechanism because it's one of the few places when you're doing heavy weightlifting that you can act like a damn serial killer and it's acceptable. All right? What do serial killers do? They don't want to have discussions with people. All right? I said, you're not Oprah Winfrey. This is my husband, Richie Cunningham. Right? Or what was the other way? This is my wife, Oprah. No, I'm Richie Cunningham. This isn't Austin Powers at the gambling table with Miss Vagina and number 2. Right? Stop flopping your legs. If you do this, I automatically don't know what the hell you're doing. Right? When you're bench pressing and you get hard, the legs should be tighter. The torso should be tighter. You shouldn't be wiggling like you're hearing some kind of music that no one else can hear. And the last thing is you shouldn't be talking. If you're talking, instead of the air being in your torso generating stiffness and tightness and keeping your shoulders down and keeping your shoulders back, all your air is vibrating off your vocal cords because you're telling me something that I automatically can see. As a spotter, I can see if the bar is slowing down or dropping down. I don't need you to tell me that. Right? So when you're on a bench press, stop talking. Oh yeah, I can't do this. I can't do it. That's not the way when you're channeling your inner serial killer, you're going to do it. I'm not saying go out and start beating up old ladies or anybody. Don't go beat me up. Right? But what you need to do is you need to get tight, you need to get quiet, you need to get gritty. I'm not stealing that from the awesome Philadelphia Flyers mascot. You need to get tight. When you're bench pressing, there's time for conversation. You gotta stay tight. So those are the 3 points that will instantly make your dumbbell bench press or any bench press better tomorrow. Number 1, mind your shoulders. If you think you're doing this because you're being hardcore, you're not. You're being a knucklehead who's jacking up his neck and taking results away from your chest. Likewise, if you're doing this to jerk out that rep because you're being hardcore, no. You're jacking up your shoulder, you're jacking up your rotator, and you're taking the tension off the targeted muscle. Number 2, you've got to find positions, external positions that lead to the best internal responses. And that means whether it's a back arch that helps you feel your chest more or your elbow positions that help you feel your chest more. And number 3, this thing has gone on too long, god damn it, but that's one of my faults, many of them, is you got to shut up. You got to get gritty. You got to get tough. You have to understand that bench pressing successfully is more like being a serial killer than it's being a diplomat. And sometimes there's times to talk, and sometimes there's times to fight. And in this modern world, it really isn't acceptable to run fighting people all the time, but the bench press will give you an opportunity. So I don't want to hear about the dumbbell or the way I can't do it. Don't laugh. Shut up. Get angry. Get tight, mind your shoulders, and find the best position for you to feel the best internal responses. The bench press is a chest exercise. Do everything you can to make it a better chest exercise. That is it for today. Thank you, everyone, and goodbye.